It was exactly 2:47 a.m. The night was very still. No distant car horn, no rustling trees, just a thick, heavy silence in the room. Then the phone buzzed. One single vibration. It was sharp and quick. It didn't ring again. Amanda brought out her hand from under the blanket, half asleep, half awake. She reached out, her fingers brushing over the phone before she even opened her eyes. The screen lit up. Unknown number. Her thumbs on her phone screen for a second. Then without thinking, she answered. Hello? Nothing. She frowned, pressing the phone closer. Then a whisper. Jump. Amanda blinked. I'll catch you. Just jump. Her body moved before her mind could process what was happening. The sheet slipped off her. Her feet touched the floor. She wasn't thinking about why she was standing or why she was walking. It felt like she was supposed to. The air in the room was very thick. The walls felt farther apart. Something was off. But she didn't stop. The curtains shifted. The balcony door was open. She didn't remember opening it. Outside, the city stretched far and wide. Street lights blinked below. The night smell of distant rain. She stepped forward. The railing was cool under her fingers. She climbed. No rush, no hesitation. The wind brushed against her arms. The world looked smaller from up here. I said, jump, Amanda. I will catch you. The voice in her head over and over again. Her body tilted forward, and then Amanda is a 30-year-old beautiful lady who worked in a marketing department. She lived alone in a quiet apartment on the 10th floor of a building that looked nicer on the outside than it really was. She worked for a big firm, one of those places where people sent emails at midnight and expected an answer before sunrise. The kind where urgent meant drop whatever you are doing, and even if it's breathing. Her phone was her lifeline. Emails, calls, WhatsApp messages, social media, work reports, spreadsheets, promotions, clients, deadlines, name it. She was always on. If the phone rang, she answered, always. It didn't matter if she was in the middle of dinner, standing in the shower, or half asleep and with one eye barely open. If it rang, she picked up. Amanda, do you ever just disconnect? Lilian, her closest friend, had asked once, watching her type furiously between bites of food when they were having lunch. Amanda laughed. Her eyes were still locked on the screen. I can't. My whole job is inside this thing. But it wasn't just work. The phone filled the empty spaces, the quiet moments, the in-between time when thoughts go too loud. When she wasn't working, she was always scrolling. Twitter, Instagram, newsfeed, pointless articles about celebrities she didn't care about. Just something, anything to keep her mind busy. The phone was always within her reach. On the table, on the bed, in her pocket, under her pillow at night. The last thing she saw before she slept, and the first thing she grabbed whenever she wakes up. A habit, a reflex, a need. She has stopped noticing the weight of it in her hands, stopped thinking before she answered, and that was how it started. The first time it happened, she didn't think much of it. Her phone had buzzed late, past midnight. She was lying in bed, half watching a YouTube video, half dozing off. The screen lit up with unknown number. She had answered without hesitation. Hello? Then there was a silence. She had frowned, waiting. Maybe a bad connection. Maybe a pocket dial. Hello? She had repeated. Her voice was groggy, patient and tinny. Still nothing. Then click. The call had ended. Weird, but not that weird. Spam calls existed. Wrong numbers happened. She had rolled over, plugged her phone in and gone back to her video. Didn't even think about it. Not then. Not the second time it happened either, or the third. It was always the same. Unknown numbers. One ring, silence, then click. Some nights, it happened at 2:15 a.m., other nights at 3 o'clock a.m., never at the same time, never more than once a night. And she always answered because Amanda always answered, and that was her mistake. The calls kept coming, not every night, not on a schedule, just often enough to make her notice. A buzz in the middle of night, unknown numbers, silence on the other end, then click. It should have been weird. It was weird, but Amanda had been brushing it off. The way people brush off little things that feel off but not off enough to do something about it. Spam calls, network glitches, a bus stranger with the wrong number. Nothing serious, she thought to herself. Nothing to think about. But then, her phone started doing other things. Little things. She would wake up and find her screen lit up, as if she had just been using it. But the call log would be empty. No missed calls, no notification. Sometimes, the screen would be on before she even woke up. One night, she had opened her gallery to look for a picture and found a video she didn't remember recording. It was dark, just blurry movement, soundless, a shadow shifting against the dim light from the window. She had watched it once, twice, squinting, trying to figure out what it was. It almost looked like someone had recorded her. But that was ridiculous. She had probably rolled over in her sleep and accidentally pressed record, right? She had deleted it without thinking. Then came the whispers. At first, she thought it was just in her head. Those weird half dreams where you wake up but your mind is still tangled in sleep. But the more it happened, the harder it was to ignore. She would be lying in her bed, eyes closed, somewhere between awake and sleep, and she would hear it, a voice. Not words, just a murmur, soft, low, just below the range of understanding, like when someone whispers in another room and you can hear them, but not what they are saying. She had started sleeping with her phone under her pillow, not because she was scared, not really, just in case. And the worst part, she never told anyone, not even Lilian, her friend. She had thought about it, wanted to even tell her, but how do you say it? Hey, my phone has been acting weird, and I think I might be hearing things at night without sounding like an idiot. So she didn't say anything. She kept answering the calls. She kept waking up to her screen glowing. She kept brushing off the whispers, the glitches, the creeping feeling that something was wrong. And when she dreamed, because now she was dreaming every night, it was always the same. Standing at the edge of her balcony, looking down, feeling the wind against her skin, and hearing a voice, soft, calm, familiar, telling her to jump. She always woke up before she did, until the night she didn't. On this fateful night, Amanda had gone to bed exhausted. Work had drained her. Meeting, deadlines, emails. It had been one of those days where everything blurred together. And by the time she got home, she barely had the energy to eat. She had scrolled through her phone, of course her usual habit, answered a few messages, mindlessly watched some videos, the usual. At some point, she had dozed off, phone still clutched in her hand. The room had been quiet, still. Then the phone buzzed. Amanda stared. She barely opened her eyes, just enough to see the glow of the screen. 2:47 a.m. Unknown number. Her tongue moved before her brain caught up. Automatic. Instinct. She answered. Hello? Then there was silence. Her heart wasn't racing. She wasn't scared, not yet. This had happened before. Then the voice came. Jump. Amanda blinked. The word slipped into her head too easily, like it had always been there, waiting to be remembered. I will catch you. She sat up, not slowly, not in alarm. It was smooth, fluid, like waking up into something she had already agreed to. Her feet were on the floor, cold against her skin. She barely felt it. She was moving, not questioning, not thinking, just moving. The air in the room felt thick, like walking through the waters. The walls looked farther away, stretching into the dim light. She didn't check the phone. She didn't need to. The voice wasn't coming from the speaker anymore. It was inside, a presence, a suggestion, a truth. The curtains swayed as she passed them. The balcony door was open. She didn't remember opening it. The night smelled differently, not like rain, not like dust. Something heavier, something waiting. She stepped forward. The railing met her hands, firm and cold. She climbed, no hesitation, no rush. The wind touched her face, coiling against her skin like fingers. Below, the city stretched out, endless and quiet. The voice didn't repeat itself. It didn't need to. She understood now. She leaned forward, and then... Lilian opened the door. She hadn't knocked. She hadn't called out. She had just felt something. Something wrong. Something pulling at her chest. So she had pushed the door open. Her heart was pounding. The room was dim. The bed was empty. The balcony door wide open. And there was Amanda, standing on the railing, barefoot, hair loose, her nightshirt swaying gently in the night air. Lilian didn't think. She ran. Amanda! The name ripped from her throat, sharp and desperate, but Amanda wasn't reacting. She wasn't flinching, wasn't startled. She was just leaning forward. Lilian lunged. Her hands grabbed fabrics, skin, something solid. She pulled harder. Amanda's body jerked back. Her limbs twisted. A gasp, half shock, barely there. Then the two of them crashed onto the hard floor of the bedroom. Lilian landed awkwardly, elbows scraping against rough tiles, breath coming in uneven gasp. Amanda wasn't moving. For a second, everything was still. Then a long, shaky inhale. Amanda's eyes snapped open. She was on the floor. The ceiling swam above her. A weight, warm, human, was on top of her, pinning her down, and she didn't know why. She blinked, dazed, her pulse sluggish and heavy in her ears. What's going on? Her voice came out dry. Lilian was staring at her, wide-eyed. Her grip on Amanda's arm was too tight. You were about to jump, Amanda. What's going on? What? I walked in and I saw you. You were about to jump. You were on the railing, Amanda. You were leaning forward. What's going on? She stopped, swallowed again. You weren't awake. Amanda's body stiffened. She sat up too fast. Her head was spinning, her hands gripping the floor of balance. The balcony door was open. The city outside was still. The street lights cast long straight shadows across the floor. The wind was light, almost gentle, but she could still feel it, the weight of it, the pull. And then she saw her phone, face down on the floor. A single crack ran across the screen. The last call still on display, unknown number. Amanda's mouth went dry. The call, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. Lilian was already shaking her head. Amanda, what is it? Amanda couldn't answer. She was staring at the phone, at the glowing, mocking words on the screen. She could still hear it, the voice, soft, calm, and gentle. Jump. The whisper crawled through her mind like a memory refusing to fade. Her stomach was twisted. She grabbed the phone with trembling fingers and swiped through her call log. There was no record of the call. It was never there. Lilian was still watching her, breathing unevenly, trying to understand. Amanda, you need to tell me what's happening right now. Amanda pressed her lips together, and for the first time, She was scared to answer. Amanda sat on the floor, staring at her phone like it had turned into something else, something alive. The call wasn't in the call log, no number, no proof, but Lilian had seen her, had pulled her back, had saved her from whatever was about to happen. Amanda didn't want to say it loud, didn't want to admit that she had almost jumped. She hadn't been in control, that someone had told her to do it, and she had listened. Lilian exhaled. Amanda, this is not normal. Her voice was quieter now, like she was trying to keep the panic from creeping in. Amanda's finger gripped the phone tighter. I know. Lilian's eyes flicked down to the phone. The call. Who was it? Amanda shook her head. I don't know. Lilian hesitated. Then can we trace it? Amanda blinked. The thought hadn't even occurred to her. But now it was the only thing that made sense. Find the number. Find whoever was calling her. Find out what the hell was happening. She unlocked her phone. Fingers moving faster now. But the number wasn't there. Not in the call log, not in her contacts. Lilian frowned. That's not possible. But there's another way. She opened a tech tracking app she used for work. One that could retrieve call record and dig into numbers, even if they were hidden. She punched into the time the moment her phone had rung. 2:47 a.m. And then there it was. A number, a real one, not unknown. Amanda's pulse jumped. Whose number is that? It belonged to someone she saw almost every day. Someone she worked with. It belonged to her coworker, Patricia. They found her the next morning at the office. Patricia was standing by the office machine, stirring sugar into her tea like it was just another day, like she hadn't tried to make Amanda kill herself. Patricia, she turned, smiling. Oh, hey, Amanda. Lilian was standing beside her, arms crossed. Amanda didn't blink. Where were you calling me last night? Patricia's face didn't change, didn't flicker. With confusion, didn't hesitate. She just smiled. I needed you to answer. Amanda felt something cold slide through her stomach. Patricia wasn't surprised. She wasn't acting like someone who had been caught in a weird mistake. She knew exactly what Amanda was talking about, and she wasn't denying it. Lilian stepped forward. What did you do? Patricia finally sighed, like they had asked her something boring, like this whole thing was a chore. She tilted her head slightly. You don't understand, do you? Amanda felt her heartbeat in her ears. Understand what? Patricia smiled wider. Midnight calls are not just calls. Amanda's breath caught. I don't understand. You answer. Patricia cut in. That's all it takes. You were making me jump? Patricia leaned closer. Yes. Lilian stepped in front of Amanda. You are sick. Her voice was sharp now and furious, but Patricia just laughed. You people think everything is just technology, huh? She murmured, stirring her tea again. You don't know what happens when you answer a call past midnight. Amanda was shaking now. I almost died? Patricia tilted her head. You weren't supposed to be saved. Lilian grabbed Amanda's wrist. We are calling the police. Patricia didn't move. She took a sip of her tea and then she whispered, so softly. Amanda almost didn't hear it. I'm not the first to do this. Amanda froze. Lilian pulled her towards the exit. We are leaving now. They turned, but before they could go, Patricia called after them. Be careful who you answer at night. Amanda didn't look back, but she felt it. That cold, quiet weight in the air. Like someone was still listening. Amanda and Lilian walked out of the office without another word. Amanda could still hear Patricia's voice in her head. You weren't supposed to be saved. At that moment, Amanda realized this wasn't just some sick game. Lilian, she knew what she was doing. And Amanda knew deep in her bones that if Lilian hadn't shown up that night, she wouldn't be here. She would have been gone. The next day, Amanda got a call from the office. Patricia had been arrested. Lilian had gone to the police right after they left the building. She had told them everything about the calls, about how she had found Amanda standing on the railing. The officer hadn't laughed. They hadn't brushed it off because they knew people had died like this before. Most were ruled a suicide. Some were left unexplained, but a few had raised questions. A few had made officers wonder. Midnight calls, strange behaviors, people who had no history of depression suddenly found dead. No one had ever been caught before, until now. And then it got worse, because Patricia wasn't denying anything. When the police questioned her, she smiled. "I just told her to jump," she answered. "That's all it takes." One of the officers had walked out of the interrogation room, said she gave him chills. Like she wasn't even worried, like she knew something they didn't know. And maybe she did, because that night, Patricia got a phone call in the police custody. The officers heard her answer it in her cell. Just a soft hello, and by morning, Patricia was dead, hanging from the ceiling of her cell, phone still in her hands. Amanda sat on her bed, phone screen face down beside her, staring at nothing. She hadn't answered a single call all day, hadn't even touched her phone. Lilian had texted her, "You okay?" Amanda hadn't replied. Because no, she wasn't okay, not really. Because now she had questions. Who had called Patricia? And what had they told her? She exhaled, rubbing her hands over her face. Her apartment was very quiet, too quiet. Then the phone buzzed once, a single vibration against the wooden nightstand. Amanda didn't move, didn't blink. Slowly, her heart pounding, she turned the screen over. Unknown number. Her breath came shallow. She let it ring. It stopped. No voicemail, no message, just silence. And that silence felt like a warning, like a voice she couldn't hear whispering, "Be careful who you answer at night." Amanda didn't sleep that night. She sat in her bed, her back against the wall, knees pulled up to her chest, watching her phone like it was a loaded gun. It hadn't rung again, not yet, but the silence was worse. She could still feel it, the weight of something waiting, like the call wasn't gone. It was just watching, deciding when to return. Lilian had stayed over. She was in the living room, curled up on the couch. Her phone was in her hand, texting someone, maybe the police, maybe her sister, maybe just anyone normal to remind herself that the world still existed outside of this nightmare. Amanda didn't blame her, because even now, even knowing Patricia was gone, it didn't feel over. The next morning, they sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Neither of them ate. Lilian was staring at Amanda's phone. "What do we do now?" she finally asked. Amanda exhaled. "I don't know." She really didn't. Because Patricia had been caught. She had been arrested, and still the call hadn't stopped. That meant it wasn't just her. It had never been just her. "We have to tell people." Lilian's voice was firm now. "We have to warn them." Amanda nodded. Because she knew she wasn't the first person this had happened to, and she wouldn't be the last. Amanda started talking, at first just to people at work. Quiet warnings slip into conversations. If you ever get a call past midnight, don't answer, even if it looks like a normal number. Then she told her sister, then her neighbor, then her old friends from university who lived across the country. Some laughed it off. "Amanda, you are being paranoid. It's probably just a scammer. Do you know how crazy you sound?" But then someone said, "Wait, that happened to me before." And another, "My cousin got calls like that before. She died. We thought she had just lost her mind." And another, "I answered once. The next morning, I woke up outside, standing at the edge of my compound. I didn't remember walking there." Amanda's stomach twisted every time she heard a new story, because this was real and no one was talking about it. She wrote about it online, an anonymous post, a thread explaining everything. If your phone rings past midnight and the number is unknown, please don't answer. If you do answer and the voice speaks, hang up. If it tells you to do something, do not listen. Block the number. Turn off your phone at night. Do whatever you have to do. Don't just pick up. The replies flooded in. Hundreds of stories, thousands. People from different cities, different countries, all saying the same thing. It had happened to them too. Some had resisted, some had barely survived, some hadn't been lucky. The calls weren't random. They were a pattern, and worse, they weren't stopping. Every night now, Amanda powered down her phone. For the first time in years, she let the world go silent. No scrolling, no text, no distractions. Because now she knows some things don't need a face to find you. They just need you to pick up the phone. And if your phone ever rings past midnight, please don't answer. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to share this story with your family and your friends whom I love to see them. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.